stand by because in case you missed it, I do want to play this moment in the courtroom when the verdict was handed down. Watch.
Will the defendant rise along with counsel? Madam Clerk, you may publish the verdicts.
Thank you, Judge. In the Circuit Court for the 9th Judicial Circuit in and for Orange County, Florida, State of Florida versus Casey Marie Anthony. As to case number 2008 CF 15606-0. As to the charge of first-degree murder, verdict as to count 1, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty, so say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, on this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of aggravated child abuse, verdict as to count 2, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty, so say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of aggravated manslaughter of a child, verdict as to count 3, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty, so say we all, dated at Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of providing false information to a law enforcement officer, verdict as to count 4. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of providing false information to a law enforcement officer as charged in the indictment. So say we all, dated Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of providing false information to a law enforcement officer, verdict as to count 5. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of providing false information to a law enforcement officer as charged in the indictment. So say we all, dated Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of providing false information to a law enforcement officer, verdict as to count 6. We, the jury, find the defendant We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of providing false information to a law enforcement officer as charged in the indictment. So say we all, dated Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson. As to the charge of providing false information to a law enforcement officer, verdict is to count 7. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of providing false information to a law enforcement officer as charged in the indictment. So say we all, dated Orlando, Orange County, Florida, this 5th day of July, 2011, signed foreperson.
Madam Clerk, you may poll the jury.
Yes. Juror number 1, were these your true and correct verdicts? Pardon? Juror number 1, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Not guilty.
Were they all your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 2, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 3, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 4, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 5, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 6, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 7, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 8, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 9, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 10, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 11, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
And juror number 12, were these your true and correct verdicts?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Will counsel and the defendant approach the podium? Not all the counsel, but just Representative Sample. Casey Marie Anthony, a jury of your peers, having found you not guilty as to the charge contained in count 1 of the indictment, murder in the first degree, at this time, I will adjudge you to be not guilty. As to count 2, the crime of aggravated child abuse, a jury of your peers having found you to be not guilty, the court will adjudge you to be not guilty of the crime contained in count 2. As to count 3, aggravated manslaughter of a child, a jury of your peers having found you not guilty, I will adjudge you to be not guilty of that count. As to counts 4, 5, 6, and 7, providing false information to a law enforcement officer, I will adjudge you to be guilty of those counts in order that you be fingerprinted here in open court at this time.
"25-year-old Casey Anthony wiping away some tears as that verdict was handed down. You heard all the 12 different jurors acknowledging how they felt with regard to each of the different counts, 7 counts in all. Want to remind you, you're looking at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That is a live picture of a room in which we anticipate could be up to 12, could be as few as 1 or 2 jurors will be able to enter, take part in some sort of news conference, and several questions can be asked. In fact, I'm told our own Martin Savage, who was inside that courtroom, will get a shot with that first question. We will, of course, bring that to you live. We're also waiting to hear from the prosecution, from the state, get their reaction to the verdict that was handed down just this afternoon. And I want to go, though, to our senior legal analyst, Jeff Toobin, who has been watching this whole thing unfolding along with us. And, Jeff, I want to go back to your point because I thought it was an excellent point. Casey Anthony could decide tomorrow to walk out of a court, stand on the steps and say, I did it. I killed my 2.5-year-old little girl. But she will never face time because why?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, the double jeopardy clause to the Constitution says this very clearly, that once you've had one criminal trial, you can't have a second one. The prosecution gets one attempt to prosecute you for a crime like this, and she is free to say or do whatever she wants about this matter at this point. And no, not that I anticipate she is going to confess, because she's been consistent in saying she's innocent, but as a legal matter, there is no appeal, there is no civil case that is realistic a possibility here. In fact, the most peculiar thing about today's hearing is that her lawyers didn't ask for her to be released on bail.
You think they were shocked?
I think they were too surprised. That's exactly what my reaction was, that they were too shocked, because she's already served 3 years, which is way more than anyone ever gets for the misdemeanors for which she was convicted. So I don't imagine that the judge would have objected to releasing her today. Now, I assume she'll just be released on Thursday. But, you know, 2 days is 2 days, and no one wants to be in prison. And I think she has every right to be released today and not have to wait till Thursday.
So when Judge Perry set the time, 9 a.m. on Thursday morning for that sentencing hearing, later that morning, you're telling me that Casey Anthony will be a free woman.
I think she should be one today. She shouldn't have to wait until Thursday, but I am certain that on Thursday she will be sentenced to time served. Because she's been in jail for 3 years awaiting this trial. Each of these 4 convictions could carry a maximum of a year, but no one gets consecutive sentences to a misdemeanor. So I cannot think of a scenario where she does not get released on Thursday and maybe even tomorrow, because her lawyers may realize they made a mistake in not asking for bail. And a night in jail is a night in jail, and I don't see why she should have to spend another night in jail.
Wow. Jeff Toobin, stand by for me. I have Holly Hughes to my left. Stand by for me as well. I do want to talk about the reaction to this verdict. Certainly mixed. I've been reading your tweets. People have been pouring in and around the courthouse. In fact, we were told, one of our producers who's been covering this trial says the local reporters, print, television in Orlando are, and to quote this person, shocked by this verdict. I want to toss just some tape. This is Jane Velez Mitchell from our sister network, HLN. They've been covering this thing from the get. She is outside of the courthouse. She's speaking just some men and women who came by the courthouse. Get their reaction. They're on the ground in Orlando. Take a listen.
Are you right now? Upset that I was crying. It's not right, Jane. I told you this yesterday. It's wrong. She got away with it, and you know it. And people are saying that it was okay. She didn't get away with this. I can't even talk. I'm appalled by this. I thought, look at my hands.
Does everybody agree with
I,
this lady?
I do, I guess, because it wasn't posted on her Facebook page and it wasn't on social media. They didn't have it on tape. It didn't happen. It was her daughter's life and imagination also.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
shocked. What,
Just a crying shame, an absolute crying shame this is. They call this justice. They say the American flag flies today. It does not. It does anything but fly today.
Well,
It's been trampled on today.
They say justice does work, and that's what it is. They
I'm
did,
sorry.
and it's kind of like the same with the
Common
O.J. Simpson case, the
Common
same
sense.
situation.
Scott Peterson case.
OJ number 2.
OJ number 2. That's what you're hearing here. OJ number 2. And I got to take you over here. Now, we're waiting for the lawyers to come out. You can see all the media has gathered here, and there is a...
So you saw all the media presence, tremendous presence. Again, we have crews on the ground. We'll certainly be going to them live momentarily. But Holly Hughes, to you quickly, because to Jeff Toobin's point that perhaps the defense was so shell-shocked by this verdict that they didn't even think to ask for bail. You make an interesting point that it could be a matter of security. Where does Casey Anthony go, given the feeling on the street?
Exactly. I mean, the people on the street think she got away with it, despite what the juror said. They're ready to form a lynch mob. Let's face it, the defense threw her family under the bus. Is she really going to go home to George and Cindy after she said that George and Lee molested her? And probably I think they were shocked because let's face it, we all thought there was going to be some type of felony conviction, okay? Some of us thought first degree, others thought maybe a negligent homicide, but we all thought she was going to get convicted of something. So they didn't plan ahead. They didn't have a hotel reservation under an assumed name to safely get her out and stash her somewhere, because let's face it, there's going to be a backlash, and she's probably not feeling comfortable enough to go home to her parents right now.
But you know what? A lot of people say, look, this is the perfect example of how the justice system worked, including Deborah Opry, defense attorney. Deborah, I want to go to you. First of all, your reaction to this verdict, and secondly, the point about the jury, because correct me if I'm wrong, but this jury never sent any notes to the judge, never had any questions. They deliberated for all of 11 hours and then came to their conclusion.
I'm going to give you my reaction as a criminal defense attorney and as a person who does media, and here it is. I think the jury reacted to the way the case was presented, the parties who presented it, and I think overwhelmingly, when I saw Mr. Cheney Mason giving that chart of the reasonable doubt scale, I think people and all of us as citizens have got to accept this. Convicting someone for a crime under our Constitution in these United States, beyond a reasonable doubt is a virtual impossibility. And when that jury, knowing the scrutiny they were under because of the media coverage, I think they were so careful, and
Deborah,
I said...
forgive me, I want to interrupt you. I'm just getting some news in my ear. We've been watching that jury room, hoping that members of the jury would be speaking. I want to bring in Holly Hughes as we begin to sort of go back into and reset for people who are just joining us. This verdict, it came down, mixed opinion here, but as I said, 11 hours, that's pretty quick.
Yes, it is.
Pretty quick.
And it shocked all of us because every single person that I heard, speculating was it's got to be a guilty verdict of some sort. Maybe some people thought a lesser included. I certainly thought they were going to go top charge, murder in the first degree. But it's a lesson well taught that this is an adversarial system. That is the whole point of having a prosecution team and a defense team. The prosecutors would never bring forth a case they don't believe in. They believe with all their heart that she's guilty. Her defense team believes the opposite, and that's the beauty of the system, Brooke. You put 12 citizens in the box, you let them make that decision, and you trust the system to work. So, the prosecutor still thinks she's guilty and she got away with it. Her team feels very vindicated and that, an innocent woman is on the street. And the rest of us sit here and go, wow, what was that jury thinking?
Let's remind everyone, as you mentioned, there were 12 jurors. It was 17 total, 5 alternates. The youngest of the 12, 32 years of age. The oldest, retirement age, 7 women, 5 men. We could be hearing from them at any point in time. There are pictures of this room where they have different numbers for different jurors. It's up to the juror. Thus far, we have not seen these jurors. They have certainly bonded over the course of the last couple of weeks over this particular case.